order. Oh,
What?
September, sorry.
What?
I think I made the wrong note. It is September. Welcome to the September meeting of the Riverlands Party. You can see we're trying a new room setup. We've gotten some feedback about the slides being a little hard to see sometimes, voices being hard to hear, so we're trying this. Feel free to give us feedback after the meeting, but hopefully this will work. We really want to make this so that you guys can participate in the meeting and understand what we're saying, and make everybody as comfortable as possible. So hopefully that will all work. So if y'all stand and join us in the pledge. I think we'll go this way. Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone could just remain standing for the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather for this meeting, we seek your presence and guidance. We thank you for the opportunity to come together as a group, united in our mission and purpose. Grant us wisdom and clarity as we discuss the matters at hand. Help us to listen with open hearts and minds, and to make decisions that reflect our values and serve the greater good of our community. We ask for your blessings on everyone present tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right, our first order of business is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda for this evening?
Yes, the Chattahoochee Riverlands meeting did not happen in August. It was canceled, so we will have one this month.
Okay, so our second discussion item, the Chattahoochee Riverlands Working Group, we can remove that from the discussion from the agenda. And with that change, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. And then everyone should have had a chance to review our August meeting minutes. I did the month right, the August meeting minutes. Are there any corrections needed to the August minutes? Okay, if there are no corrections, can I get a motion to approve the August minutes?
I'll motion to approve.
And can I get a second?
A second.
All in favor? Next we'll have public comment. So I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Members of the community will have 3 minutes to speak. If anybody would like to speak, we've set it up now so that you can come to the podium so we can be sure to hear you. And if you come up, please just state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes. Would anybody from the public like to speak?
Amber Chambers, Whitehead Road. Talking about the sound, the thing that would remedy that immediately would be to take this meeting up into the council chambers. That's where the city council, the planning commission, and the downtown development authority are meeting. You have microphones, you have the ability to film the proceedings. As a body that is control of money, taxpayer money, I think that we should be up there for maximum accountability. Everyone should be able to see and hear exactly what you're doing. I also understand that the youth council meets up there on Wednesdays. The youth council are not a body that's spending more than the defined amount of money every year. They're teenagers. This is an actual authority of the city. So I think you guys should really consider bumping them down here and y'all going up there.
Would anybody else from the community like to speak? Okay, then we will close the public comment portion of our meeting. Our discussion today is going to be with Thomas and Hutton. And what we can do, guys, if you want, is just kind of swing the podium so they can put their... So you don't have to have your back. Yeah. Perfect. That way everybody can hear you fine. Okay. Yes.
Look at that. The introduction's quite that good. That is exciting.
Well, thank y'all for allowing us to be here to kind of start our initial concept discussion on our initial 3 options that we put together. I believe y'all got some hard copies in front of you. My name's Kyle Bowen. I'm with Thomas and Hutton. I'm the project manager for this project for us. This is Ryan Thompson. He is our lead principal landscape architect. He's gonna be leading the presentation. We've got a little bit of a PowerPoint, which is exactly what you have, with a little bit more information on a few little items here and there. So with that being said, I'll let Ryan take over and kind of step you through where we are right now.
Sure, thank you again, Ryan Thompson. Cal introduced me, but landscape architect. We do master planning and landscape architecture for all of Thomas and Hutton's projects, and our footprint's down in the southeast. Sorry, there's a little bit of a bar there across the bottom that I don't see on my screen, but we're going to ignore that for now. But yeah, this is the reason we put it in red there. Conceptual. We know this is y'all's first chance to see. We want feedback. There'll be 3 different alternatives that are proposed. Some have very similar elements, because the program is similar on all 3. We took that program directly from some previous studies that y'all have done, but I'll walk through that, kind of walk through the documents. The first month or so, we just shared a bunch of files back and forth. And there's been a lot of study on the general area and a lot of information that we made ourselves familiarized with. And with that, I'll just kind of go through those a bit. So the elements that we've specifically considered as part of this were obviously your very recent, I think it was last board meeting, that the Parks and Recreation Master Plan was presented. There's definitely some elements of that we've incorporated. We hadn't had a conversation with y'all about it if we wanted to, but we tried to find a home for some of them, and if those are elements that fit, great. If not, we can find a different solution or a different scenario. Sorry, it's a little washed out, but your Vision 100 plan for the future land use. Obviously, your Sugar Hill Greenway, the Livable Centers Initiative was very impactful to what happens here in the Riverlands. The Greenway is a wonderful endeavor the city's making, and obviously we want to make sure we accommodate that. The map there that's actually inside that study, anything that's outside of our parameters of what we're planning inside of, we either took from that MAPS trail system, or we took from the National Park System's current trail system on their land. So anything that's outside of that, if it's wrong, no. But we are just showing those points of connection. You'll hear me say it a couple of times, like there is a gap between what the National Park Service trail show and where we'll hit the property line. So there's going to be a coordination effort on that. Let me go through the next couple. Obviously, I mentioned the National Park Service. This is the latest of the information we can find of the trail system that they are planning for Bowman's Island. And then this is the trail that they're planning for Orr's Ferry section. So that's so that's what we showed on our documents related to what the National Park Service property is. Obviously, B+C Studios has done previous studies on this. They took it, and it's neat that this process is going exactly the process we would typically take for a private development. What we would do is we would bubble something out. We would start playing with land use areas and use a bunch of trash and see how does this lay out. Just general areas that we know can accommodate certain types of uses, and then you take a deeper dive, and the deeper dive is what you're going to see today. I know the exhibits y'all got are probably pretty small, maybe a little washed out. So these are just drafts, so I hope please don't get hung up on the fact that there are empty boxes that we plan to infill on those that'll have inspiration images, but we felt it was much better to spend time on the actual plan as opposed to images. People can sometimes get hung up on, I don't like that architecture, I don't like that architecture. We're not architects, right? So the architecture can be whatever the city wants it to be at the end of the day. Let's see. And really wanted to touch on these next 2 slides, because much like the trails, we're also not claiming that we're coming up with the ideas for the program, right? We're utilizing your previous studies for the program that we've tried to incorporate on the plan. So from the KB Advisory Group's program, hospitality, a very small, 40 to 50, I think it's 40 to 60 room hotel, event lobby, the cabins and campsites, a little bit of office space, and then this retail kind of restaurant, brewery, all with the idea that this is not your conventional development scenario, right? If you read through their recommendations and any of the other recommendations, I think you see that it is recommended that think about this differently than you might just with any other typical site. And this next one, I know it's going to be difficult to see because it's text from the Recreation Master Plan. But all I wanted to point out really on this, yeah, we might better. Y'all got this, I just mainly wanted to show that this is, in case you wanna go back to see what the master plan shows. This is basically the list of elements that the master plan recommended for Riverlands and for Orr's Ferry directly from the Green Space Master Plan. They are very much, both sides focus on passive uses, with obviously the northern side, the Riverland side, or they call it Riverlands, so we call it Riverlands north and south on the plan, but the commercial track and focusing on that, but then the natural passive park area. One element that was mentioned inside another part of the document was the idea of the recreation center, the gym, and maybe some of the other ancillary things. You'll notice on all three of these, we tried to find a home for that, whether or not the city thinks that's the right spot for it. That could be something that's taken back out of the final master plan, but we didn't want to ignore that. We wanted to kind of understand how that could be incorporated. You know, a gym triggers a lot of other things that needs, you know, parking and things of that nature that can be pretty intense. But if it was planned as, you know, shared use as a trailhead or something like that, there may be a good opportunity for that. But from that, from understanding the studies, we then made an effort to make sure we understood the site. Kyle didn't mention it, I'm actually out of Savannah, so I spent a lot of time studying the site from the information we had related to, we got great information now. It's a wonderful time to be a landscape architect and planner because you can get a lot of information and understand the site pretty well. I am happy to say I actually walked the site today. Yes, I'm impressed. I got back out of there too myself because it was quite the walk. I'll have to admit, I did not walk this side. This side is exactly as we suspected. It's got a lot of topography and very steep. I mean, I was extremely surprised actually, just how open the canopy was. It was easy to walk even if I wasn't on the roads and the trail network. So there is a lot of opportunity there. But the main thing you see on this is obviously we know streams, we have to avoid those, minimize impacts to those. But the first thing we did when we started sketching on ideas is identifying these high points, because those are kind of the key spots to get to. They're going to be the easiest to utilize. They're going to be the easiest to utilize with that and minimize impacts to the greater remainder of the property as well. So you're going to see on each of the three concepts we proposed, those three, well, there's multiple high points. All those high points, the uses are going to kind of rotate around in different scenarios of how to utilize those. As you can tell, like I said, the southern side here, you know, just driving the driveway, I was a little intimidated this morning, but I did not walk that entire piece, but I did walk the majority of this, was able to get almost back to the creek there, and then I've got some golf balls to give away that I found while I was walking here. It's obviously the folks that hit it across the creek and did go get them, but it's an amazing number of them over there. So each of these will be a, I'm here as crisp as it is on my screen. Each of these we're going to have an overall, and we're just state, there it goes, clean up a little bit there. So the state, like how it aligns with the master plan, these are very consistent because we kept these same Envision 100 alignments for every concept. You're going to see that the northern side has the more intense uses. We did take the studies, literally tried to incorporate the majority of the commercial and the hotel sites on the southern portion that's on the north side of Highway 20. You're going to see in all three concepts, the south side is extremely minimal impact. The idea is kind of take advantage of the home maybe there, wrap some things around it, some gardens, some trails, maybe some more intense trails. But we'll go through each of these now, and I do hope each of these cleans up a bit as they load. Let me give that just a second to see if it cleans up. Let's see very close what it is on my screen. What's that?
That's about what it's gonna do, it looks like right
Yeah.
there.
All right, well, I might step up here so I can see it a little bit
Yeah,
better.
you
Is that
can.
good? Okay. You can do this fine for me. All right, so what we did here, and I'll try not to stand right in the middle of the deal. So our first elements we were focused on are these programmed elements related to the kind of the commercial hotel, those ideas. So we did focus those in this area. These are to scale, like they're the square footages that were recommended. The parking is approximately, we were not doing the exact parking space by any means. But the idea is we would enter here on this main southern portion. The majority of the commercial space would be wrapped around this central green space. That would be, again, we're not gonna focus on the architecture, but it would be wrapped around a pedestrian oriented green space, parking wrapped around. Then as you transition, the high points, if you remember, there was a high point here and there was a high point here. And the road alignment would go along the topography. This is a potential of the hotel site. There's a large drop that comes off the backside back to this creek that we thought if there was the idea of incorporating cabins, you could incorporate cabins down that hill slope to be accommodating the hotel. But the idea is when you come through here, up on that hillside, there would be a boutique, small hotel type, it would be right in the view there that would take advantage of that view as you come up the hill. Again, the cabins we talked about, there'd be maybe opportunities for cabins here. Having walked it, I do realize that this adjacent property owner's property is really close to this edge here. Actually, the existing trail kind of wants to feed you right into their property. So there may be something we want to consider doing something slightly different there. The creek here is a very well-defined creek, and actually this little piece that comes out here as well. So here is extremely steep, so we were just proposing that this would be just an off route, not improved trail network that you just kind of go through and create a loop there, but maybe a bridge that would connect over to the rest of this. As we continue through, I cannot believe how washed out that is in this. The idea here is, one of the references was potentially like a ropes course at some point. It was one of the things that was listed. We thought that might work well with the type of use that's happening over here at the golf course. And it would also work very well with what we're proposing here. This is the highest point. It's right there at the golf course. You would have just a bit of a view to the golf course from this spot. That is an opportunity to be a nature center or a community center or something of that type that could maybe jointly use that, one, you've got the opportunity to have some pretty great views of the golf course from the backside, which I know is not super nature centery, but from out the front side, it would create a great opportunity to create the access to the rest of this trail network that we're proposing within here. This area here is probably the flattest site on the entire north side. It's between the ridges that create. There's a ridge that's here, and it drops off significantly on both sides. So number 7 is where's my mountain biker? Our idea there was maybe that that's an opportunity to loop a mountain bike, a couple of mountain bike routes that would be on both slopes of those sides coming off of that, and then I think I saw a couple of head nods, maybe negative toward the idea of the gym, but if the gym was there, we thought that could be an opportunity to tuck that on that high point there, and then have the nature themed playground on the rest of that, kind of out the backside of the gym between the two legs of this on that area. And then finally, the tip of it is we basically get almost back to the back edge of the property, but it's just a parking lot that creates a trailhead to very, very passive use trails that kind of start feeding back into Richland Creek Trail System, the rest of the National Park Trail System. Maybe the opportunity for definitely picnics in the forest and stuff like that. There might be some structured picnic structures. You're going to see another concept, the idea of maybe even allowing some primitive camping or something as you get closer to that edge. So we'll talk about that one here in a bit in another one. Let's see, make sure I didn't skip through. Oh, another idea we had underneath the ropes course here is the idea of maybe a very beginner level mountain bike course, right? Something that's pretty gentle. There's still enough topo in there. I think it might be interesting. That would be about a 2,500 foot route. This is kind of two options. This leg was about 5,000 feet, and I think that was going to add another 4,000. So, but I mean, obviously, I'm just zigzagging back on topography. The real route would be y'all's to define and figure out the exactities of that. Any questions before I jump to the south side on Concept Day?
You go north of 5 there, that's that big swamp with all those down trees. That's really impassable.
North of this area.
I'm sorry, whatever, to your left,
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, excuse
and
me.
then straight up.
When you asking questions, we're gonna ask questions terms of the authority.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah,
keep
I
going, and y'all
know,
can
yeah,
ask
it's
questions.
just, it's hard because we can't
Yeah.
entertain public questions right
I
now.
understand completely. That was my bad. Anybody else's? All right, let's go to the next one, then we'll touch on the south side here. Okay, so south side, like I said, very, a whole lot of topography we got a challenge to deal with. The existing house, is here. The idea is, at some point, create the actual entrance to align with, the open, median break there, and create the potential of two trailhead parking areas that are kind of on those higher upper areas there. And then really just come utilize the existing route of the driveway as much as possible. And then on this one, a minimal loop that kind of wraps around that knoll, that high point that you saw. In the middle of that, we were thinking it would be a great opportunity to do something like some unique like architectural feature, like we call them folly structures, but inside of like a botanical garden. So something that you might see as you drive in that's just an interesting feature that as you park along the edges or here, it might encourage you to come back and visit that spot as you walk through the botanical gardens. So this is a pretty good sized area that could be, the botanical gardens, if that's something that the group wanted to do, I mean, that would be a project in itself, right? But it would require a lot of switchbacks and a lot of unique trails and stuff in there because there's a lot of topography that's happening there. With this one, we are proposing to take and repurpose the home as like a community event space or something. It just seems like a unique piece. I mean, it's there on that extreme high point of the site. You'll see in another concept, we've actually proposed maybe taking that and expanding it, creating some sort of an event lawn that would be associated. Obviously, if you have an event space, you're gonna need some parking. The rest of this is that same passive trail system. We are proposing to take advantage of the ravine, maybe long-term, that section that would connect over to the Horace Ferry Loop over here. That's a very steep area, and maybe the idea of a swing bridge or something at some point that was mentioned. So we've been trying to incorporate that element into it in multiple spots. But this loop would be a natural soft surface trail. This is where the greenway would be coming through. It would follow and try to actually come through where the grade's a little bit better. It's extremely steep over here on this side, so that you see how we got that kind of stacking up there. So that's the north and south of Concept A. As I mentioned, the program pieces are going to just kind of rotate around on these pieces. We can go to the next one for Concept B.
Before we move out of this first concept, is there anything that the authority would like us to drill down on either one of these before we move forward? Or you good?
I just like to talk about the high point where the home is.
Okay.
And potential parking, because, I've been up to that pad and there's not a whole lot of space, so, I mean, we're not talking a whole lot of parking available if we're using the topography that's there, or.
Right, there would definitely be,
I'm sure we'd have some retaining
It would
walls
be
and other things
retaining
that we'd
walls
have to
and
deal with to
not-
be able to do that. So
it would not be just a parking in the existing grade. You would have to,
Okay,
you would
right,
have to work
that's-
the grade and force the grade around to make. And that's probably going to be a big limitation on, how we utilize any of this. You would have to actually drive all the way around the backside of the home there. There is a nice, that you're gonna see on the next one, there's actually a very nice, continuation of the high point that faces out this direction, right toward the river is here. So we're proposing on the next concept, you actually take this, community, like that event space, or the lawn idea, and create it underneath those trees, and it's kind of facing back this direction. But yeah, there's no doubt, to be honest, even this loop of road is going to be, that's why the engineer's here, it's gonna be an engineering, feat, right,
but that's the same theme that you kind of heard when they did the Greenway, kind of utilizing that knoll to try to drive around it, do what we can for some minimal parking around that.
Yeah, the idea would be like national park kind of parking on the side of it, so you would just take advantage and create a couple of little parking spaces where you can, and you're gonna make up grade. Where it flattens back out, you're gonna make a couple more parking spaces, and you're gonna make up grade again. It certainly won't be your typical, which I don't think we want typical kind of parking and that kind of scenario there. So, so what we're showing for that kind of real parking area adjacent to that may be a bit overscaled compared to what we actually have to utilize. Actually, this one's using that bigger kind of continuation of the ridge there for parking, which probably is the best use of that unique space.
One other thing that we to point out that, talking about the national park, like we talked, the CRNRA, talking about their boundary line and the fact that it is a national park. We're trying to make notes that, these are park boundaries that will need to be signed and adjusted, accordingly once we get to a point where we do try to connect some trails together.
Yeah, and like I was mentioning earlier, like that's a big connection that doesn't show on their plan, right? And there's similar, I think, we probably wanna identify that we haven't added, that we probably wanna explore, is trying to get over here to make a connection where their plan is getting as close to the property as it possibly can. That might be an easier connection or a quicker, more interim connection that can be made.
I had two questions. The PVS trailhead and then multi-use trail designations more on the north side, northwest part of the North Park property. But PVS trailhead is one, just for clarification, what that is? What does that stand for?
That may be the acronym, the abbreviation is incorrect. It's the existing trailhead that's there, the parking area that was there. It was on the other concept, I think.
Way up at the top on, multi-use is way up the top left.
Alright. Are you talking about
Right.
the overall plan?
Yes, yes, sir, up the top left, Ryan. Way up high on the north.
You talking the Riverlands Trail or the?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I was just more curious about the difference between multi-use trail designation in that one area and it's not described that way anywhere else. And I just was trying to understand what y'all were thinking there when you said multi-use trail.
Up by Richland Creek.
It's up in the northwest
Yeah.
part, way up high,
Above the picnic area.
kind of
Right
to the
there.
right of Bowman, right in there.
Yeah.
You go to the next slide.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. There.
Now you're by the star.
Yeah, so that connection there, well, I guess, cause we were thinking it's beyond just a simple soft surface trail, that it might try to make that connection to the Richland Creek Trail and some other nature as opposed to just going to the soft surface. So it would be multi-purpose trail of some sort beyond just the soft surface, or it's not the greenway,
Right.
but still kind of a dual purpose, multi-use trail in that area. And that's where we'd like some feedback, like if the idea there is that's not a great connection, it's too far down the Richland Creek Trail, or that connection point doesn't make sense, so be it. I mean, we had initially thought that actually might be the connection for the greenway, but then we realized that the route's actually showing kind of coming out this direction, out through the golf course area from what we saw on the plan, so we made an adjustment based on that. So we still kept that trail as a component, because we thought trying to make that connection up there it seems like a good connection to make. That's actually, again, if we go back to the topo, that's there's a little bit of a ridge or knoll that's facing down toward the creek, is this area, right? And there is that's where it's extremely steep right in there, so that gap there, so.
That's a small part that you,
Yeah.
you can't get through there.
Right, yeah, I'm not saying we're getting through that.
My only feedback on that is, I know that the Park Service is very sensitive to keeping bikes out of there. So, I like as much as I would like that idea to have that multi-use path, but we probably in the final draft want that to be a soft surface,
Okay.
just because I think the National Park Service would have some heartache over us
Sure.
Yes.
bringing something, that could encourage biking onto
On
National
there.
Park Service property, which they've made clear that they don't want happen even inside the park, so.
Okay, yeah, that's good feedback, because you're probably gonna see that on each other concepts.
That's right, yeah, and the greenway, I think, suffices for the multi-use trail through, for the purposes of the North Tract anyway.
Have y'all seen the greenway to the golf course? Have y'all started to have conversations about how that might work?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just gonna be this edge over here. That edge there's a great trail that's on one of the old roads over there that I walked today, so, there's a good opportunity there to keep it pretty simple.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, if we can go back or go forward to the, okay, yeah, so on concept B, again, the program is the same, the edges are the same, but we are rethinking things. And the one thing I want you to get from this, and again, our main focus has been on the commercial components, the economic development pieces of it from that standpoint. This concept, I just want you to know, this is kind of an easy button that somebody might try to hit, right? So it's maybe something to kind of protect yourself from doing because you might lose some control. And we'll spend some time just focusing on this. You're gonna notice there's not as much detail to it, but you could achieve the same program inside that space. Same, again, the elements that we're trying to incorporate are the same, but we do have a different approach to how the program is allocated on the site. All right, here we go. So I'll focus on this. So when I said the easy button, does anybody, it's probably very difficult to see, but hopefully you can see it on your sheets. Do you recognize what that looks like? It's just out parcels for commercial, right? I mean, that's set up where that road is there. You know, you come punch in a new one road here, extend the road there. I mean, granted, there'll be a lot of grading and challenges related to that, but I mean, that is commercial development too, right? But they would each be freestanding, there wouldn't be, wouldn't read and feel all the same. But the other concept is gonna take a lot of buy-in from somebody to work together with the city to make sure you do a plan. If this ever did become the route that was happen, I guess one thing we'd make sure is just make sure you have some very strong controls on architectural controls, site plan review. I know the city has a lot of site plan review controls anyway, but that is just a way that same commercial program, the acreage is there. That would be a perfect acreage for just a typical, hotel site that you could have. Those are perfect sizes for, out parcel restaurants and out parcel retail developments. The program on the remainder of this is the community event space at the High Point here is a little bit different. We've kind of stepped this one down, thinking it's more of, as opposed to a nature center, it's just like a community center, right? So you're taking advantage of the High Point, but it's maybe more just focused on not as big of a building, not as big, maybe like the classroom spaces that a nature center might have. But here on this space adjacent to it, still utilizing that as some adjacent trails and network of trails. This is a good spot related to how, again, that trail system that comes along the edge of the golf course is there. So it's an easy spot to actually start creating the trail system. Again, we did still incorporate the idea of the gym. I understand that this is a low, wet area here, that the idea of that may be challenging, but it is still relatively high and draining an area. So the idea is kind of a joint use of the parking that would be needed for both of these to allocate that if you did incorporate the gym. On this piece coming on the other side where there's a ridge here, again, this is that same ridge that slopes off both directions. On this one, this is where we were thinking maybe we take the idea of a ropes course if you did it and take advantage of the height that's there and the impact that would have and the feel of what that would be. And I actually have a couple of videos and pictures that I took standing in that spot. And I really do think it would be an amazing spot for such a thing because it is such a dramatic that you've got to slope off on both sides that you can see just standing on the ground. I can only imagine what it would be elevated 50 or 60 feet up in the air. The idea, again, the soft surface trails, we kind of wrap around that. We're still incorporating the mountain bike trail opportunities on both sides of that. Here we tried to push the envelope a little bit more, that maybe figure out a way to get a trail through this steeper area and then take advantage of, I won't call it a little bit flatter, but it's not quite as steep as this section, to try to do some picnicking or something that's a little bit closer to up here without having to get all the way back into the site. This was an opportunity just to try to incorporate some sort of a trailhead that was a little bit lower, very small parking. That area that's showing there would be very, very small, just to allow access. Because the idea right now, right, I mean, really the only way to, unless there's some other way that I know, I parked here and walked in, and as I came back out, I believe this gentleman that was here met me and asked me what I was doing, so we had a good long conversation. But he was very nice, actually, very, very nice once I talked to him. But
Chicken farmer.
yeah, so that would be an opportunity if there was never, this grander road network and parking back here never really happened. You know, just creating some sort of a trailhead with purposeful parking after you get past whatever commercial development happens here, that, you know, somewhere on that slope before you get the creek and the buffer edge might be a good opportunity to create that then, you know, there could be future phases of this that gets implemented, or that's, you know, somewhere in that area is the trailhead that allows access to all this in the future.
And then this one's a primitive tent, your tent camping.
Yeah, in this area, right, yeah, so this is the one where we were thinking, maybe as you get closer over here, you accommodate, it is pretty open, again, as you walk over there, well, it's like degrading even worse as we speak, it looks like raindrops are falling on it or something. The idea that it is pretty open, and it might be a place, if the city's comfortable with promoting and allowing primitive camping, like tent camping, that this seemed like it would be a good opportunity area. Again, the canopy's so high and open throughout just about the majority of all of this area that it feels comfortable, to be within, so, did I miss anything else related to that whole program? I don't think so. So again, the actual, Riverlands Trail, or the Sugar Hill Greenway Trail would follow the alignment of this roadway through this, kind of adjacent to it in this concept, and then peel off and come back over to the golf course, kind of right in this area. So probably take advantage if you did a bridge across the creek here, that the trail and the bridge would be, the trail and the roadway for the, wow, look at that. Figured out significantly. But you would take advantage of that and have that, and then it would veer off and continue the Greenway Trail connections. And then, yes, to your point, this one has the multi-use path as well, so we'll make note of that to change. Basically, sounds like we don't want to incorporate or encourage anything that even relates to biking, other than maybe the mountain biking aspects anywhere beyond a trailhead that would be in this area. So it would be heading back toward the Greenway. Okay.
I got a comment
Yes.
or a
Yes,
question,
sir.
I guess, on the trails. You talked about some areas being really steep,
Mhm.
you know, for trails. I really wouldn't shy away necessarily from steep trails. There's a lot of people that like the elevation gain. And for around here, you've gotta get up to like Sawney Mountain or even further out if you wanna have any type of elevation gain other than just walking on a flat surface. I wouldn't necessarily shy away from steep areas, you know.
And for the natural trail surfaces, I know it's hard to probably see on that, and it's definitely hard to see on this. We're not, that's what we're really proposing in the majority of those steep areas is, and there's only so much that we can show on a master plan. I mean,
Yeah.
the majority of those trails would be trails that over time, you know,
Yeah.
the city works and starts to cut into those areas. I agree with you. I mean,
Okay.
getting off the road, especially on the north side, getting off the roadways, or the existing trails and the roads, that's what I did most of today, and just walked up and down and through, and it was very.
Well, I just heard a couple comments about how steep it was.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, he's coming from Savannah.
There's a lot of people, you know, you gotta drive to go, I mean,
Yeah.
if
Oh,
you
yeah.
got right here,
Yeah.
it's nice. A lot of
Yeah.
people like the elevation gain.
Yeah.
They'll use it for training for the AT, actually.
Yeah.
They'll practice their hills around here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another comment, or maybe a question, and maybe Mark can help out. A 5,000-foot mountain bike trail, is that long?
It's a mile.
Oh, I know.
That's
It's very
it.
short, like Haw Creek, which is, going toward Cumming, that's probably our closest park, and it's about a 2-mile loop, and that's about as short as you would wanna have a loop.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm all for mountain biking. I'm just, if you do it, maybe try to figure out how to do it to where it's the right length that people would come and do it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we wanna get
We
ahead
can
of
do
ourselves.
that.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
alright.
have, we have some feedback from Sorba about
Gotcha,
some things.
okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to make a point too, because we've mentioned ropes course a couple of times,
Mhm.
and I think that came from the B&C Studios conceptual design. I don't necessarily know that we have support from the community for a
Sure.
ropes course, so I know you guys are also doing a conceptual design, but we, you know, as we're starting to hone things down, I just think that was one of those pretty pictures that came up in the B&C Studios design, so we'll.
Sure, it
Yeah.
does show up in the
Yeah,
recreation report too, though, so, but that's what this is about. I mean, we haven't been involved in the feedback and the stakeholder meetings that y'all have had, so, and we don't expect y'all to give all of it to us tonight. Like, we would love for you to take the time and go through this and say, no, we don't like this at all, quit doing this. here's the feedback, because our goal was to, we'll still have these to show the process we worked through, but then to land on a consensus plan that that's the plan that the community wants to see. So by all means, we completely expected to have a lot of feedback related to the uses and as well as to how the uses are approached. On this concept, so this is again the south side here. This is the existing home, but this time we're actually proposing maybe it would be expanded out the backside. Again, there's some grade challenges, but it would be out the backside and then take advantage of the hillside that's there, that's the continuation, and really create a space there that's this is where we're proposing that you might actually do this as a let me see if I can define this. Maybe this is an opportunity, since this is so natural over here, there's so limited amount of uses over here, then maybe that's an opportunity for some sort of a nature center that you really kind of tuck into the trees. Even the architecture starts to build out over into the trees as opposed to regrading the slopes. It's like pushing out, and perhaps you're not reusing the building, maybe it's a new building in that space, but just not the idea that maybe this side is a better side for incorporating that. The other elements, again, we still have the trailhead parking. It seems like a logical spot to try to take advantage of the space that's there on the north side of the creek. Similar loop, this time we would try to maybe try to tuck it a little bit longer of a loop. Again, the grading is going to be very challenging to try to do that, but the same idea would be that you're making up grade, tucking in parking, making up grade, tucking in parking. The greenway connection would come through the most gentle slope we can find through there, try to feed it through the main corridor and along, and then back out through and make the connection to the north. Again, we incorporated the idea of the swing bridge, but this time we did kind of put it on axis with what the improvements would be there related to the actual potential of the nature center site there. And let's see if I'm missing anything on this one. Again, yeah, this program is just taking the elements from the other and trying to reconfigure and maybe make that nature center use over here on this side. Like keep this side kind of focused on the idea of the south side being very nature focused and minimizing the impacts of kind of the program beyond that. I do think we still incorporated the idea of some sort of a small botanical garden, because it just seems like a great opportunity to have a walkable small, that's not really that small, but a botanical garden is kind of leading into the space and taking advantage of the views that would be up there. Okay, and then this is concept C. Again, same edge elements, but we've again kind of rethought how the program would be. On this one, we've really kind of opened this area up a little bit. It's not quite as compact in that same area. We thought, well, what if you did maybe push some of that potential commercial type use beyond that original kind of, I call it the dog leg, kind of the little extension area, the peninsula coming down toward 20. So you're going to see that we've kind of pushed and proposed some additional elements to be pushed elsewhere inside the park space on both sides. So, right, I'm hoping this one will clean up a little bit. So this one, from a commercial standpoint, really opens this up. Like we're proposing to keep it a lot less compact. It's more of kind of individual buildings, with the exception of this one kind of U-shaped kind of central courtyard focus that would be an opportunity for some restaurants, some shopping, maybe if there were some office space associated with that. But then you would come in, and as opposed to this, as opposed to having the greenway that kind of framed around these buildings would actually kind of try to push up in front on the new road that would be built through, and we would be creating an opportunity to kind of create a little an area where the buildings address this roadway, as opposed to they're all clustered here and you've got parking right around it. The parking would be on the backside. There's going to be a lot of grading associated to pull off a concept like this as well, there's no doubt. But it is much more open. There would be opportunities to work around trees and work around some of the topography a little bit more. On this time we took the idea and we thought, well, what if you took the idea of the restaurant and really expanded it, like that it was a really like embracing this hillside, so take advantage, there would be, obviously, you need parking for restaurants to be successful. So this is the high point there actually is we would cut that down a bit, but then the restaurant would be built kind of out over the slope of that hillside that's going down toward the creek. So this is where the break kind of starts to happen off that high point going down. So it would be a very unique restaurant by all means, but it would be a larger restaurant we're actually thinking that might actually take advantage of that area and really be something unique that's kind of looking out over that. There could be some additional cleanup that really opens up some of the view down to the creek. We're still incorporating the trails on all these edges. I mean, the entire edges would be incorporated with the soft surface trails. This one, we proposed if there was a hotel, what if the hotel related to the golf course a little bit, right? So we pushed it all the way back into the site, put it on that high point that we identified earlier. And then we actually proposed to like wrap those kind of cabin kind of features that might relate to the hotel, that could take advantage of the services inside the hotel, that would kind of be along this edge. The creek's down here, so it would still be well upland of the creek, but kind of along that same knoll edge there that's there. The areas here were, let me see, make sure I get this right before again, we incorporated the ropes course, but we can eliminate that. Something unique, and maybe it's a large playground, maybe it's a large just natural area that people are gonna enjoy, but that ridge there is really unique. Like it's probably one of the biggest straight stretches that it's here between, and we'll go back to the topo, but that area, in my opinion, after what I walked it, was just one of the most usable kind of, you had a lot of topography on both sides, but it was, speaking of challenge, there's no challenge to walking it because there's very little grade change for quite some time as you walk along that edge.
Are you talking about 6?
Yeah, I'm talking about 6, yes ma'am, right there where 6 is, where we identified that area as well. We're the playground and the kind of a nature themed playground we incorporated again. Again, we had the same idea for the mountain bike. Speaking of the length, I mean, what we did was we tried to take and give general offsets of what felt comfortable to do the switchback, and just tried to switch it back as much as it could, back and forth, up and down through the slopes. When you get a chance to look at it and study it and see, I mean, you may say we could do more, or that even what we're showing might be too aggressive related to how much linear footage could be achieved. We heard that was a potential desired element. We wanted to show what we thought we could achieve in those areas related to that. Let's make sure I don't miss anything. And we still incorporated, having been there on this spot again today, I really did like the idea if the tent camping or nature, primitive camping is allowed. This seems like a really good idea to incorporate it. We did on this again push into that same area that's maybe a bit of a challenge from wetland situation. We've got the streams, we do not have wetland background and base information related to what we've got planning wise, so that could definitely affect future plans as you do the planning for any of these in detailed sites. Obviously you're gonna have a lot more detailed base information. But the idea here is wherever this stops, you create a trailhead of a small amount of parking, but maybe do something that's a significant, shelter, larger picnic shelter that kind of creates a threshold into what's happening here for the rest of this passive use area. Okay, and then on this concept, the one thing that was different, if you noticed, the program was stretched out a bit on the other side. The one element we didn't include, but we still wanted to, in case it was something that we wanted to include, we wanted to make it fair to make sure we were incorporating the same program on all of them. So this one we thought, well, what if there is a desire to do the gym, what if the gym actually came over to the other side? It was completely separated. It was a recreational facility that was kind of accessed off of the south side of 20. You tuck it in before you start making the grade change. Again, it would require some decent topography and grading to allow the creation of it, but then still allow for the majority, the remainder of the site to hold as it was proposed, either in the previous concept A's scenario, or this one, we still like the idea of having this, this space that would take advantage of that relatively flat spot on this site, and then incorporate as many, natural surface trails as we possibly can. We still love this strong element that leads out to the river and out to the trail system there, incorporating the same loop and potential botanical gardens, in that front half of this one as well. I believe that was it. Can we go back to the topo though? I wanted you to show that, try to breeze through that one a bit. There we go. Yeah, so that's the area that you've noticed we keep landing on things being there. The area I was talking about that feels just so unique walking, like, I think those are within 5 feet of the same elevation of those two high points, but there's probably not 5 or 10 feet of grade change between the two of them. So, but it's pretty, especially on this side, it's a pretty dramatic feel from a grade change standpoint. Another thing, and I'm sure those that have been there, like I tried to mark it on our GPS platform, related to this, somewhere I think it's in that little niche right there. There's a little rock outcrop that's probably a, I don't know, 15 to 20 foot drop that's kind of unique. I didn't see that anywhere else in the site, so that would be a neat thing to make sure you get a feature of a trail or something to that point to take advantage of. But the elements, and this is the area you were talking about there, I believe, that was the low wetland area. It is kind of feeding toward this bigger, it's extremely steep right through there. But the idea, if that is in fact too wet, some of that parking facilities would have to be tucked up on the hillside slopes and the back sides of those as well. So,
Is that GIS topo?
That is.
it is, but it's pretty
When it's
pretty
not
accurate. Yeah, I mean we use a very similar GIS platform on our mobile app we have, and as I was walking it was pretty consistent with what's showing. I think there's a couple of spots where it might be like right in there. It might be a little bit steeper in a couple of spots than what that's showing, but it's for planning purposes of what a master plan is, it's pretty doggone accurate.
Brian, did you look to see if there was an opportunity for a connection from the golf course from a vehicle standpoint over to the property?
We haven't studied that in detail. Now, there is a road that is of a quality that they're using it for maintenance so I would have to imagine you could follow that same road alignment. To me, that road alignment almost felt like what you might put the future, like, greenway on those.
That road's still, if that road's there, that's the golf course where they dump their trash back
It
there.
is. I mean, you can tell they're using it. There's a beaten in spot where a tree fell, and they're consistently going around it now. So it's got a little different route to it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think there would be. I think the challenge is going to be though is the playability of the golf course with road connections and even trail connections across the golf course.
Yeah, I meant
try to
really on the
avoid that.
back side of it,
Yeah.
around the driving range,
Yeah.
to make a connection so
Back
that you
down,
can have
yeah.
access to the property from Swanee Dam and Highway 20.
Yeah, we could, with the next iteration, certainly study that a bit more in detail to see if, like, we really didn't propose any additional vehicle connections out the property boundaries at all, but that one in particular probably would be an important one to know.
Yeah, for public, yeah, just to make that additional connection.
Just drive to the American Legion parking lot.
I like on option C, kind of going a little bit outside the box on possibly moving some of the features deeper in, like the hotel, whatever. Depending if there is a hotel, putting them kind of closer to the middle of all the activities, recreational area, easier to walk out, easier to see. Again, if there's connections from that over to the golf course, that would be a plus for business for the golf course. And I also think, again, there's so much to go on, but having it less clustered on the commercial side, I think is gonna be appealing to this area and to the community versus, industrial park type thing, which of course we're not talking about. But I like that idea. Curious on the greenway, try to keep that more in the canopy as opposed to around the side of the road. You know, greenway versus
Oh, I see.
sun exposed, the sidewalk, yes. So, and this is gonna be a little bit with the city and with you guys, but what you're showing on here is the greenway going adjacent to the road going up through the peninsula.
Our thoughts were that it likely would potentially follow that same route, and whether or not it really does, I mean, it could be incorporated inside the pieces. I mean, I think you've kept the greenway pretty accessible and trying to make it, you know, flat and accessible as you can. The idea there is you're going to have to flatten an area out for the road, so that to follow that somewhat may make sense, but, yeah, that, and to your point about option, the third option, option C, that would open up some additional opportunities. One thing we really didn't talk about, you'll see that we actually on that one did very specifically identify the idea of the pedestrian bridge or the bridge over 20 there, as opposed to just some sort of, you know, future, you know, figuring out how to utilize the crossing that's underneath the existing bridge crossing there. You know, Kyle and I even bantered about the idea, could you plan it where it was actually a tunnel or something that popped up in the middle of this green space, or, you know, in the middle of the commercial area somehow. So, I mean, I think there's some opportunities, and obviously if that were the case, then you would rethink, you know, potentially how the alignment of the greenway would go as well.
You have parking for trailhead on the south side of 20, and that is a large component of commercial property, right?
This piece here?
Yes. And I don't really see a lot of commercial being designated in that area.
Well, really, Mark, in that area, we got the creek that comes through, so we're kind of really limited to what we can really
I
put
know the
there.
depth isn't there, but that's what had been discussed before, so having
Yeah.
looked at it closer, it's not something.
It would be a unique, for commercial. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but it would probably be, it would be a decent bit of grading challenge to probably incorporate any sort of parking associated with it, because it would be, it is, I actually was a little too aggressive with the first concept that I sketched out, and Kyle told me to hit the brakes a bit and honor the creek. But yeah, I mean, the creek is literally like right there, so it's like right down the middle of those. So it looks like it's a deep, like perfect depth for commercial.
By the time we did a 50-foot offset and
Yeah.
so forth and so on to try to set a building, I don't know that's a whole lot of room still left.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the one thing of feedback wise from the program that came from, I mean, it's not a intense amount of total square footage, right, that was proposed. That's, but it could pretty quickly, you know, eat up this area, not eat it up, but it could be, you know, depending on how the city wants it to look and feel, that typical density that you might achieve might back off a little bit, where if you did want to incorporate the hotel or whatever, you might want to push it out into another element. Or it may just benefit from the fact that it could directly relate to the golf course, that gets a road planned over the golf course somehow, that, sorry, I just hit that laser tag button there. And that it could maybe relate to things and be used more than just for the boutique hotel idea. They could incorporate some of the community center bit space and stuff with meeting space and stuff on the ground floor.
Ryan, that option C where you push that hotel back towards there actually sparked a different thought, which is the clubhouse at the golf course now has kind of reached its end of life. I mean, it's in pretty poor shape. Maybe a better option for a hotel would be to build it at the location where the current clubhouse is, integrate the clubhouse onto the lower floor of a small hotel with a roof dining experience, because then that's at the high point. There's a beautiful view all the way over to Sawney Mountain in that direction.
That's a good idea.
And you already got parking there. It would set up great for folks who wanted to golf and stay the night or something like that. That may be something that we talked about. Maybe that may be a better use, and it moves it away out of this area, which we're trying to keep more nature focused, and it makes it, there's a natural pairing of the golf course with that over there, and then keeping these uses, the more less intense and more nature focused. So that may be something that we talk about.
And maybe there's still connecting, you know, if there's the idea of a unique experience that's not hotel, it's cabins or something, they still
Sure.
benefit from the hotel that's there, but they're tucked over in this space somehow.
Yeah.
I do think those would be some really cool opportunities to kind of tuck those in on the slopes and have some little neat, bungalow, very small, feel that could be tucked in, but take advantage of a bigger facility, that would provide the needed services for it.
I had a question. So we had discussed previously that we were thinking there might be some interest in having retail space that would allow people that are participating in the property to be able to have services, such as if it was a kayak or rental place for boating, or renting of mountain bikes, or whatever. So I don't hear that being talked about. So we had always thought that that might be something that would be of interest to
Yeah.
incorporate that.
I certainly think it could be.
That's kind of our retail area that we
It's in
didn't
that
go into
same
the exact
square footage.
usage, but
Yeah.
it was intended to be the outfitter,
Okay.
It's
the
40,
smaller.
I didn't touch on that, it's
Yeah.
40,000 square feet of
Yeah.
retail, so it's a
Okay.
pretty substantial
Yeah.
amount
Okay.
of retail. And that's 40,000 square feet of single story, right? So if you actually did some multi-story, cause I think you might, like if you did something unique, like an outfitter or something that wanted to have a unique architecture to it. So that's definitely a way to minimize the impact on the land, is to, you know, encourage things to build up a little bit, you know, maybe 2 stories for some of the things. Most retail spaces don't love the second floor of their space, but, a restaurant certainly could have a second story, and that can help minimize the square footage. But yeah, all of these, we didn't assume multi-story, well, obviously the hotel would be, but other than that, like, the restaurant, if we say the square footage of the restaurant, that is what we're showing as a footprint wise from that standpoint. I think it's an 8, and it may still be labeled as 8 on concept C, but actually it's a little bit bigger. We actually added the idea of like a big exterior space to take advantage of the slope, where there'd be a dining area on a big deck or something that was outside of that, on that north edge, that would be looking down toward the creek.
And to go back to some of the discussions that we had about the field, if we go back to concept A that we talked about with the green way in between the buildings, the idea of that we saw some inspiration in images previously, like open glass kind of buildings that are framing that area. That's kind of what we thought. We didn't specify that it's outfitters. You know, we're just saying, okay, it's just retail. But that was definitely what we're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we will, like I said, we're gonna go back and, with the final documents, we'll have inspiration images and things of that nature to fill out some of those spaces. But, I mean, we'd like feedback on if we completely missed the boat on those, but like what we were focused on was actually the like planning aspect of it, right? The like, what can fit, how can it fit, what's a bad idea from a use standpoint. Again, like I said, just to start with, we tried to go back through with either the notes we took or the other documents we reviewed, and if it was a substantial size thing that might have an impact related to the bigger spaces that would be used, we tried to see if we could incorporate it. I think I saw a negative head shake about the gym idea. Curious about additional feedback on that.
Maybe that was me. What exactly was the gymnasium supposed to be for? I think someone said that we needed
Back
to
in
be
the
in
rec,
the county or.
yeah, when you did when they went through the rec in the green space, they talked about the fact that for the size of the city, that the gymnasiums, you need technically one more gymnasium, what they produce.
Okay.
So therefore, and they talked about it in the study that utilizing some of this area as an option.
The Park and Rec Master Plan.
Clark Patterson
Yeah,
went over.
it listed out like 3 spots, I think, that was potential. Since it was listed as a potential, we thought we would show it as an option.
And it could also be a rock climbing for, again,
be-
outdoor themed.
Sure.
Be open-minded on gymnasium, it could be
It just
indoor
seems
rock
odd
climbing,
in
it could
the
be
name.
something activity. Again, you know, we wanna give people options, wet weather, dry weather,
Yeah.
still engage.
Yeah, and I think if it was explored and it was a unique gym, right, that it had some basketball, volleyball elements, but maybe it was something that was utilized some other way, or the exterior was treated in a different way, that it didn't feel like your typical municipal gym, it could be something. It would create some parking that would be, you know, a challenge to accommodate, but it could also serve something else if you had a nature center or a community center or something like that. We, again, tried to make sure everything we did on this effort was trying to show y'all like what is really to scale, what is like to the point of like how many feet do we think we can accommodate once we start zigzagging around. The gym is the same thing. We took a couple of gyms that we were knew of and were familiar with, expanded it a bit because the actual report said I think 2 basketball courts plus a series of pickleball courts inside of it. So it's a decent size of what we accommodated on there. So, but again, that would be a whole site planning exercise in itself. But just the general concept and idea that we wanted to make sure we showed you how it could be accommodated if it was something that the city would want to entertain. If the feedback is we don't want to entertain that here, then we can certainly come up with a plan that doesn't show that for sure.
I think I thought about the gym possibly being on the north property. Would you please have a seat in the community area, because it's very intimidating to have your camera right on top of us.
I know, and that's why I've asked y'all to go up into the council chambers.
Yes.
I have a right to film
You
this. I
absolutely
can't
do.
hear you from back there.
You can hear me.
I
And you
can't.
can use a recording device that's not your phone, and you'd be able to hear us. Please have a seat.
But you can't dictate to me what
You
kind of
are
recording
right.
device.
You are right, but I can ask
The
you.
only
I can
regulation
ask
per
you to
s-
return to the community area.
Just sit
please.
down.
and I'm
Finish the
asking, I'm
meeting.
telling you not to, that I'm not gonna do that. If it's intimidating, it's intimidating, but I can't hear you. The only regulation I know per state law, and your lawyer's not here to clarify that, is that I not be blocking anyone's entrance or exit, and I'm not.
Can y'all
Can you
hear over
please
there?
sit down?
Yep.
No,
They said
very
that
difficult here.
it is very
I think,
difficult.
I think also you shouldn't be taking photographs of our notes and papers.
I'm not.
We don't know that. You've got your camera right above us.
Well,
That's
you
not
can
right.
easily change the room that you're in, and that wouldn't be an issue. It's poor problem solving on your part.
We try to accommodate you.
This is still an awkward setup. You've changed this room multiple times. You've changed the location of the meeting multiple times. It's awkward. Put it in the council chambers. All these issues would then be solved.
Okay, so I was speaking about the gymnasium on the north side of the property, and I think something that it may offer is, if we have mountain biking trails, we'll want bathrooms.
Okay.
So if we have a small gymnasium on that side, it may allow us to accommodate bathrooms / showers / anything else that might be necessary without having to put a separate bathhouse or a bathroom in that area. So maybe keeping it on the north side where the mountain biking trails are does make a little more sense than keeping it next to a botanical garden.
Yeah. No, and I think the challenge with the south side is going to be creating the space for it too. I mean, it's
Where we put it, up
It's-
closer to the front,
Right.
kind of gives you the best opportunity, but like you say, it's gonna be a
It's
challenge
gonna
to
be a challenge, I
grade
think, to
and
actually
to deal with, but.
pull off.
But it might be a more compact situation on the south side. But the other option that, what, with the nature center and not doing the gym, I mean, that is definitely the option for the bathroom, the bathhouse, the different structure that you might need, for the mountain biking. It could be that then, the nature center has, as y'all said before, I mean, it could be a portion of it that is then a little piece of the retail that has the mountain bike rental, or whatever it may be, that kind of incorporates into that building itself. So what we tried to show is some buildings that have reference to scale and size so that we can then place them accordingly.
Mark, I'm curious, Mark Genesi, I'm curious on the feedback about the mountain bike trail, since this is only 5,000 square feet, or 5,000 linear feet of mountain bike trail. What is, from, you said Sorba had some feedback on that?
Yeah, so, do you want me to go into
Yeah, we
that?
can, yeah, for sure.
So, we met with Brett Davidson, who's the executive director for SORBA, which is the Southern Off-Road Bike Association, and also Mountain Bike Atlanta. And he had several, we were just trying to figure out, what are their services, what do they do, what do they think they can help us with if we ask them for help on building mountain bike trails. And so he had several ideas, one of which was what they have found in other communities is if the hikers and the bikers both use the same trails in different directions, it builds community, because now both users are engaged in the same trail system. So when it comes to volunteering engagement, you're getting more people involved in the access of that trail. So, so taking what you've got here, I don't know how many miles you would get if you did do something like that, but that would make it a much greater draw and probably make it more feasible for the kind of users. The other is we had, I'm not sure the gentleman's name that came from the community, that was one of the coaches for one of the high school and middle school teams that do mountain biking. That's called NICO, which is the National Interscholastic Cycling Association. So one of the things that he talked about was that most parents, if you've taken your kids somewhere for an activity, a sporting activity or something, they're driving over an hour in Atlanta traffic to get to the next closest venue. So North Gwinnett County has hardly any mountain biking trails. And so this would be a tremendous draw, and they've now added elementary school to that. So there will be a high need for the use of, for kids. And so that's something that we've certainly been sensitive to, and I think that Brett has, from Sorba, has reiterated that.
Can I ask a question just real quick on the, so the dual purpose nature, so you just signage that the bikes are always heading this way and hikers are always heading
Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
Yeah.
this way, that way, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, opposite.
So they'd be on the trail at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at Hall Creek, I think Hall Creek does that.
Yeah.
Works all the time.
But that's
Thousands of
also
miles.
part of the trail, so it's wide enough, and it's also line of sight, so you're not coming up on somebody.
On mountain biking.
And you can
Yes.
design the trail such that you're not bombing down a hill at 25, 30 miles an hour. You can design the trail contour to moderate the speed. Hawk Creek is, there's a couple places that are pretty quick, but for the most part, it's pretty flat. But so the speed kind of stays about the same. And I've ridden there in the dark with lights, with other people walking, you know, in an extreme condition. So it can be done. And it's been done from Colorado all the way to the East Coast. But that is one way to do it. The other is to keep it separated. And then you're just looking at much shorter options on your trail system.
But, and I mean, maybe there's an option that there is a more intense area that is just strictly mountain biking. It's very purposefully just, you know, clear and, and I think the areas where we showed is going to be the most topo, where you would have the potential for speed gain or whatever related to that. And if they incorporated the majority of the rest of the system is kind of out to the edges of the natural paths that we've kind of pushed out to the edges to where you're kind of following the creek lines or the edges where you're following a contour kind of around the site. Obviously, the contours pipe out of the site and back in, so we're gonna have some grade challenges to deal with related to those edges. But that was the concept. So if that is something that you could get, you know, we could pretty easily get to that couple of miles or 3 miles. I mean, that's one thing I'd already made a note of, is to try to summarize in the key of just how much we're showing as the soft surface trail right now, just to give an idea of the miles or the linear footage that we're showing. But even with that, and again, the benefit of actually going out there today, and to your point about the topo, like that was trying to take advantage of following grade with most of those. There's the opportunity for double or triple of what we're showing that would just become, you know, it could either be purposely planned or natural footpaths that people beat through a little bit to create their more, a little bit more difficult and challenging routes. So, but we'll certainly add that, because I think that would be helpful for y'all just to kind of understand what the total linear footage is, and then whether or not you're comfortable with the dual purpose aspect of some of the trails would certainly help that. If not, I don't, you know, again, other than if the amount of switchbacks and that we did to try to accommodate as much linear footage as we could. Unless there's a way to, if you tell me about, yeah, we can easily, you know, switch back in a area that's 15 feet wide as opposed to the 20 feet or what, I don't know, don't quote me on those numbers.
Sure.
Obviously, everything we can do related to that would help, but what we tried to do on both sides was, you know, that it was, you were pretty well losing grade from the top of the course all the way down on both sides of the option, right?
Okay.
So then it would wrap back around and, you know.
Climb back out.
You had to climb back out, yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't tell you, I did a big fist bump when I walked back out today. I brought some parting gifts here that,
He did really good.
I didn't pick up enough, but if there's any opportunity that y'all want golf balls, there are,
That's awesome. And they're dirty too.
I was like, where am I? I knew it was close to the golf course, but I don't even see the golf course. Where is it? But it's right there. Yeah, I've actually got a video of a spot that I was like, in the video, I took a picture and it was like a space to this thing. I counted 17 golf balls that I just didn't have parking space to pick up. So there's a little fundraising opportunity there. Go down there and pick up and sell some golf balls. But that edge in particular, like, obviously, I was glad to see that this high point was what I thought it was, and the slope on the backside was as impressive as it was. I thought it was a kind of an immediate impact from a business standpoint. You wouldn't have to get so far back into the site, but just the idea of once it is more open and accessible, gosh, there's already so many opportunities to walk and, you know, just without anything else really, other than some signage and some good trailheads and access, because this edge, I mean, it was really an easy route to walk through there. I will say, I think there's some stuff before you open up too much. There's some old pipes and stuff that you want to clean up out of there. It might be a little bit of a liability. But other than that, you know,
We've seen those.
yeah. That's, you know, it was, yeah, I called Kyle, I was like, there's black pipe on the ground. He informed me that. I was like, it's not still active, is it? I'm not going to I don't want to get sprayed on in there. You know, it's clean water, I understand it's clean. But yeah, I mean, you know, walking to this edge, you can actually see it kind of opened up and daylight was starting to, you know, pop open a little bit with a little opening there. So, just in general, once you cross this creek here, it is, I was surprised at just how easily usable for a lowlander like me was able to, you know, walk it and really do it in an hour and a half or so. I wasn't out there for probably an hour and a half or 2 hours and walked pretty well the whole thing. I did not walk the south side. I drove
Just
the
glad
south
it was
side.
today, not tomorrow with the rain.
That's what Kyle told me. I got very lucky with the weather and how dry it was and out there. Yeah, the south side, I mean, just, it's not, with or without the topo even, it's just not as open, right? I mean, underneath the tree canopy, I felt safe, right? Because I could see it. I think that's a big thing that people are gonna love about it, is on the trails, it's all, you know, it's all about sight lines to see that what you're coming around and that north side, I mean, you've got the open sight lines for hundreds of feet in most situations, which I think is gonna make people feel very comfortable and safe utilizing that space. Any other questions related to the program or the master plan? I mean, we didn't get as much negative feedback on the gymnasium idea. That's what the thing, like, last month's meeting,
Right.
Kyle was like, this was something I don't think that we had really thought about. Do we need to incorporate it? And I said, well, we got 160 acres. We can find a spot and try to show it to them and see what they think about it.
It's funny how quickly 160 acres get filled up.
Yeah.
It does, and like to sort of, I mean, it's not aggressive though, right? I mean, it's a bunch of colors on the plan that when it comes down to it, you know, the line work that we're showing for the trail is probably 3 or 4 times fatter than the trail would be. You know, it's a lot, and I do think you probably see that the uses are a little bit less intense than what we're showing, so the parking lot areas could be maybe trimmed down or minimized. You know, it would be one of the reasons I kind of like the idea of pushing, you know, some sort of a private partner further into the space, is maybe they could help with the cost of getting the roads and the parking lots and stuff further into the space. Because otherwise, you know, you're kind of to this point, and everything else would be, you know, just still the city public facilities there. We didn't really explore like the nature center, is the city's nature center, or y'all partner with somebody else. the south side of the space being just so open and not really even programmed much for this, and even listening through all the other reports that just hadn't had a whole lot of programming to it, that it seemed like that might be a good opportunity to put, if you wanted to do something like a nature center, to put it over there, because you would be completely, there's not a bunch of other pressure from other type uses over there, assuming you went with one of their concepts there, and even related to, if you read the
CRNRA, Trail Management.
Just a tongue twister. You know, they even recognize that the Oars Ferry section is very passive, right, from their standpoint, so it seems like that might be a good opportunity to really keep focused on kind of the nature-based focus on the south side.
Thank you.
That's great.
Seriously, we'd love like feedback. If you wanna sketch it on it, compile it all together one way, you can share it back to us through our little website that we set up to share information if you want. And, we'd love the feedback. We'll again take that, pull it all together, pull together another kind of version of what we hear from y'all. I know we've got a public input session coming up, and our plan will get with y'all about what we want to do with that and how we want to approach that. But that'll be what we're working towards. As soon as y'all want to give us any additional feedback, we'd love to have it.
From a schedule standpoint, when would you need that?
We need to revisit like
Within
when
the
we
next
were
couple
talking
weeks?
about. Oh yeah, I mean, ideally, because we're gonna need a little bit of time to.
Right.
And even what we'll show at the public meeting, there's still gonna be a document that kind of wraps around this and pulls it all together. But at the public meeting, it'll be more master plans where we try to get feedback, whether or not y'all wanna do it through, like a true feedback session where you get, the preference dots and something like that. Like, I like this. I don't know, have y'all gone through, you may have gone through that previously already with your Parks and Rec master plan, that you don't need to do that. That's completely up to y'all of how we wanna approach that. We can figure that part out coming up. But yeah, I mean, I think our goal, if I remember on the schedule, was late.
Beginning of October, end of September.
Yeah, and the end of this middle of September, we're probably gonna be in the October timeframe for it, so. But yeah, the idea, we definitely wanted to wrap all this up before everybody got disconnected for the holidays, so like mid-November, we're hoping our scope is completely wrapped up and back to the city.
So maybe for the,
2 weeks for feedback?
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
we'd
well,
be
maybe by
wonderful
the.
if you can give it to us in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Next Friday or?
Next Friday would be,
Yeah, I was gonna
would
say.
be great.
by
I
next
mean,
Friday.
Would it be a consensus that once y'all pulled it together, then we get one consensus document of what we're getting?
Yeah, we don't need to be pinging them.
oh yeah, that would be helpful. That would certainly would be helpful.
An email every day from each of us. And then I guess when we bring it all together for our community meeting and public input, then it'll have one conceptual plan, not 3, right? Because we're gonna kind of take the best of what we liked from these ideas, maybe?
I think so, because I think people might get a bit like confused by what's actually being proposed.
Yeah.
I do think it's probably important to show we didn't just come up with one plan and now that's what we're presenting it, right? So in the final book or the final report, we'll obviously walk through these 3 versions, talk about the feedback that we get from y'all with the tweaks we make, the program that maybe wasn't what y'all wanted to see and what we tweaked and updated and planned.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Sorry, but I mean, I tried. I even pulled it up and put it on a TV screen, and it was clear as it can be. But I didn't realize it was gonna pixelate out as bad as it did. So I apologize for that.
Oh, yeah, we had our printed version,
Yeah.
yes.
Good explanation.
Can we, turn the lights back on that side of the room? Thank you. Hi, everybody. All right, that was our only discussion item, and no specific new business items tonight. So we'll move on to director's comments, and I think Mark, did you get
Now,
everything you wanted to say about?
I did want to finish up.
Great.
So Brett Davidson did say that they had the capability of, with all the necessary equipment, to facilitate trail building. So depending on whether we want to go with them or not go with them, or whether we even build one or not, but they have the ability to be a one-stop shop for us. So it certainly would be good to partner with them. They are, in the past, have, with being involved with them comes a lot of things that help continue to maintain the trail systems. So there's some pluses to have somebody that is local, that that's really engaged in the process. The last thing that Brett talked about was that they have, just as an example, there's several foundations, family foundations that SORBA leans upon for grants. And SORBA can assist us in the grant process as we see fit. A good example was at the Alatoona Park. Just last year, they were able to acquire a $1 million grant for that one park. So they're real numbers, and so they could go a long way. And so they've offered themselves to help us in that way. And I think that's really, we talked about everything else, but I think that was the last of it.
Thank you. Okay. Lexi, do you have anything? We had some more information from CRNRA from a site meeting that we had with them. So we had Beth and Ann up to the Orrs Ferry property, so the south side property, just so they could kind of see it since they're our neighbors, and talking to them a little bit. And you know, they've got that property next to us with the old house, the old brick house, and I think that there's been chatter and hope that they were gonna make like a ranger station or some kind of a North Visitor Center. But that doesn't seem like that's in their planning budget, or they said the staff and everything else. So it doesn't seem that there's gonna be a ranger station on the north side, although we would have loved that. But they are really interested in partnering with us on programming. So if there's a nature center in our plan, if there's even like an educational facility, even if it's just like one of those nice little outdoor amphitheaters for Crayfish Creek, they are interested in helping us with programming for those things, and they're also interested in if there's ever some type of a nature center and providing us with exhibits. So it's a really great partnership. Yeah, and probably even if we do some kind of a botanical trail, maybe on helping us to identify plants or whatever. But so they're super excited about what we can offer them, almost like how they can get some of their programming into this area, because they're not going to have the facilities to do that, or So it was a great meeting. You know, they were super excited, and it's always nice to say hi face to face and let them see the property. So yeah, that was it. Up the really steep driveway. And that's all I have.
I have no comments for this one.
The only comment I had, and Troy gave, I get this as well because I'm also an engineering geek, but this just goes to show you how much attention the rivers and in particular the Chattahoochee. This is of course from the Riverlands. Chattahoochee Riverlands plan was on the cover of this month's Engineering Georgia magazine, and Walt Ray is quoted extensively in there. I'll send you guys a copy of this so you can read it. It's really, but it's nice to see that this is the Chattahoochee is getting a lot of attention. The Riverlands is getting a lot of attention. There was also in this month Georgia Trend magazine, which is put out by the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, but the Georgia Trend magazine was focusing on Georgia's rivers and the recreational opportunities that Georgia's rivers play. So both of those magazines, which I give both of those, came out this month, both focused on rivers and the Chattahoochee. So nice. I'll send you guys those articles. It was just nice to see that they're getting a lot of publicity, and that it is really something that's catching on as more people learn about the opportunities that exist with our rivers and the stuff that we're doing. So thought that was really a nice thing to see. Good timing on that.
Good timing.
So, and obviously we'll want to, I think with this, we'll want to share with Beth and Ann, see if they've got some feedback, and possibly even with Walt, and see what he's got. I think sharing it with Andy, sharing this with Andy, talking with Andy, getting his feedback would be really important as well, because we want to get ideas. All of our folks that this will touch, getting their feedback. So, but I'm excited about what I see here. I have a whole bunch of thoughts that I'm going to sit down and type out and share with you all. But I think it's a really good start, and it's very exciting to see the progress being made. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mark?
I don't have anything, thanks.
Sherry?
I'm just glad you've met with Beth and Ann. They're interested in participating and helping us with that. It'll be great.
It will be great. I'm excited. Okay, I I do not think we have any need for executive session tonight, right? Okay, great. So, at that point then, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All right, our meeting is adjourned at 6:59. Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody.